Hello everybody. Today we have come to the last unit of this block, that is which we discussed on evolution and concept of CSR. We discussed about giving an overview of what basically is CSR. We discussed on integrating CSR to management practices or business practices. We discussed the overview of importance. We'll discuss what is business ethics. We'll discuss different important perspectives of business ethics. We'll discuss what is CSR, and then we'll also discuss that when business ethics and CSR is linked, how it is going to contribute towards the development. So initially, the companies were basically focusing on generation of the profits from their owners and are giving little regard to the ethics or social responsibility. However, with the importance of business ethics and CSR, which is increasingly evident in the modern business development, the changing socio-economic landscape has driven by globalization and rapid technological advancement, which has again reshaped the business environment. Previously, profit generation was the sole motto, but subsequently, with the advancement of time, CSR and business ethics have contributed a lot towards the development of the community and towards the development of the organization and towards the development of the economy. So today, CSR is recognized as a strategic business opportunity rather than only a moral obligation. Companies nowadays are acknowledging the importance of engaging with a wide range of stakeholders, including the investors, the regulators, and the employees. So CSR is integrated into long-term business strategies, thus enhancing the company's reputation and reliability as a business partner. So CSR is not only just a concept now, it is included in the business and it is recognized as the strategic business opportunity. So both large global corporations as well as small to medium enterprises across the various sectors and countries are adopting CSR practices. So to be seen as ethical, companies must implement a range of tools such as code of ethics and ethical values to guide their behavior and operations. So in order to make our business going, in order to say that our business is developing, both the role of CSR and business ethics plays a vital role. Now coming to what basically is business ethics, what is its significance? The term ethics is come from the word ethos, which means character or custom. In every company, if there is no ethos or if there is no ethics, then the company or the businesses will not undertake in a desired manner. So in the business context, ethics pertains to what is considered as right or wrong conduct of businesses. Some distinguish between morality, that is human values and conduct, and ethics, that is set of these values. So whenever we are undertaking a businesses, whenever we are working in an organization, if that organization do not maintain any value, then it will be problem for the organization to sustain. So in order to see our business is operating in a particular manner, and in order to see that we are working in a particular way, this ethics plays a very important role. So ethics is basically giving us the idea that what we need to conduct, how we need to conduct, what are the things we have to adopt, what are the things we should not adopt, what are the things I should take into considerations while undertaking the businesses, what is right, what is wrong, so on and so forth. Now coming to what basically is ethics and morality. When ethics is referring to the academic study of what basically is right and wrong, moral is used interchangeably in everyday language to describe the good behavior and actions. Only finding the things to be right and wrong will not solve our purpose, but we have to have that morality in us. That is, in what type of behavior we need to show such that we can carry forward the work effectively. So, ethics refers to under identifying how is the work that we are undertaking is right or wrong, but moral is basically used to describe the behavior, if it is good behavior, and what are the actions that we are taking is desired or not, so on and so forth. Next is the role of business. Business ethics involves the different important standards, principles, rules, regulations that is guiding the ethical behavior in undertaking the business decisions. So it shapes the corporate culture, influences how companies are addressing the social responsibility and external environmental issues. Now, when we are talking about business ethics, we are also talking about laws. So, laws are nothing but the minimum standard of behavior, but legality does not always equate to ethical behavior. So, compliance with legal standards alone is not enough for the ethical conduct. So, in general, it is telling that whenever we are talking about ethics, we need to maintain certain standard of behavior, that is the law, but always law will not cannot be equated with the ethical behavior. So whenever there is any compliance with the legal standard, then what we have to do now, we have to again find out if the things are done in an ethical way or not. Another very important aspect in it is organizational policies and culture. So companies are nowadays needing clear policies to guide their employees in decision making, which is ethical. So organizational culture also plays a very important role in supporting and determining or undermining the employees' ethical judgments. Next is the impact on the stakeholders. Business ethics define how the companies interact with the stakeholders. It guides in the conducts of various situations. It ensures how ethical considerations will be integrated into everyday operations, such that we are not behind anything that is not accepted in the organization. So there are different important perspectives of business ethics. There are different types of business organizations, and they have have their own moral responsibilities. The first important aspect is the business structure. When I talk about businesses, it can be organized as partnerships or various types of corporations, including the family-owned business, not-for-profit, public holding companies, and multinational corporations. Second is the moral responsibilities. When I talk about a moral corporation, we should keep in our mind that it is avoiding causing any harm to the other people. It is providing the scope so that we respect our economic freedom. We are fair in transactions and upholding of contracts, so on and so forth. Now, it also is impacting positively towards the society. That is, it is providing benefits to the society, wherein we can produce the goods for social causes. It provides the jobs in the community. It helps in paying taxes and contributing to public needs. And it also generates investment for the development and growth of the country. Next important aspect is it helps in avoiding the harm. So the companies, it is suggested, must prevent what? The manufacture of the dangerous products. If you go on manufacturing of the dangerous product, the employees working on it or employees using it might face problem. So if ethics is incorporated, then the products which is dangerous or which we cause harm will not be manufactured. The environmental pollution from toxic byproducts and waste take place whenever we are going for manufacturing process. So when we are adopting this ethics, then these are avoided. The different types of unethical marketing practices are also avoided when we are using it. Next is there is economic disruption in communities due to plant closures or downgrades. So whenever there is any problem in the company, then what happens? The plant is closed or the manufacturing process is stopped. So it is suggesting that whenever there is business, whenever we are incorporating ethics, the economic disruption in communities due to plant closures or downgrades happen. Next important aspect that will help us in understanding the incorporation of business ethics is the purpose of the organization. When I talk about the purpose of the organization aims to achieve common goals, which can vary from profit-driven business, educational, that is the schools, public safety, that is the law enforcement. Now we discuss about the personal ethics and the business ethics. When I talk about the personal ethics, I talk about the organizational ethics, that is understanding and reflecting on one's value. Everyone has created certain value in themselves as an individual. So it helps in business decision making, or it helps in decision making in the business context, wherein we are using our personal level of understanding, personal value, and we are incorporating it in the decision making process. So those who contemplate their personal and general ethics are better equipped to make moral decisions in organizational settings. Next is we need to take into consideration the moral versus non-moral standards. When I talk about the moral standards, it is concerned with the behavior that affects the human welfare. For example, people go for lying, people go for stealing, the health and safety. So these again so when we are incorporating business ethics, then these things are not seen, and we are implementing this standard whenever we are working in the organization. So when I'm talking about moral standards, there is impact of human well-being and personal integrity. There are different important non-moral standards. That is, it is not directly related to the human welfare. It is not directly related to the human welfare. So in general, it is telling that whenever we are talking about ethics, it is giving us a platform to work in an ethical manner, go for decision making, that too in an ethical manner. It also helps us in understanding what one has to do, how one has to implement the right strategies for the conduction of the business, such that we are not harming any people, nor we are creating any problem for the business operations, but our business activities are undertaken in a way that we desire. So now we'll discuss the different important. Now we'll discuss about what basically is CSR. In our previous classes also we discussed. When I'm talking about CSR, it is integrating the economic, legal, and ethical responsibilities into a business operations. So it represents a commitment to operating in the way such that we can benefit to the society, going beyond the law, that is the legal compliance, to actively invest in human capital, environmental sustainability, and positive stakeholder relations. So whenever we are talking about CSR, the three important aspects has to be kept in our mind. That is the economic, that is the legal, and the ethical responsibilities into a business operations. We cannot avoid any of these aspects, and if at all we avoid, our business operations will not be sustainable. So when we are talking about CSR, it is representing a commitment to operating in the way such that it can provide benefit to the society, going beyond the legal compliance, to actively invest in the human capital, to actively invest in the environment sustainability, and thus creating positive stakeholder relations. There are different important components of CSR that we can discuss. The first important component is the economic responsibility. So whenever we are talking about economic responsibility, it is suggesting that it should ensure profitability. The companies should ensure, or you may say that the CSR activities Through CSR activities, it is ensuring the profitability of the corporation while contributing positively towards the society. We are achieving profit, not avoiding the society. So the focus is on achieving the financial performance that is reflecting the sustainable business practices. Next important component of CSR is the legal responsibility. When I talk about the legal responsibility, my objective is we need to abide by all the relevant laws and regulations whenever we are undertaking the businesses. So the focus here is the compliance with the legal standards related to business operations, including the environmental laws and labor regulations take place. Next is the ethical responsibility. One of the major important objective is operate in a manner that is fair, just, and morally upright. So the focus here is addressing the issues. What are the issues? It can be fair wages to the workers. It can be number of hours that we are contributing towards our work. It is the health care of the employees. It is the protection against the arbitrary dismissal. So these are some of the important, aspects that we have to, or the component that we have to keep in our mind whenever we are discussing about CSR. So next important aspect is we need to, go for strategic outlook on what basically is CSR. When I'm talking about CSR and strategy, we are integrating into business strategy. So the companies nowadays, as we have already discussed in previous class, companies nowadays are approaching approaching with a strategic approach to CSR, are ensuring that they are aligning with the business goals and thus enhancing both the reputation of the company and the financial performance of the company also is increasing. So whenever we are talking about strategic outlook on CSR, we are basically incorporating the CSR element into the business strategy. So the companies who are adopting this strategy are ensuring that with the business goals, and as a result of which the reputation the reputation and the financial performance of the company increases. Now, when I'm talking about this strategy, I also finding out that CSR is reflected in various business areas such as mission statements, human resource strategies, environmental laws, norms, values, and organizational culture. So nowadays, what we see is whenever we are talking about CSR, we are or whenever we are talking about business, we are talking about what is the mission statement, what is the vision statement. Now we are also discussing on what are the HR strategies, what are the environmental laws, what are the norms that you are adopting, what are the values that you are creating, how is the organizational culture maintained, so on and so forth. So whenever again we are talking about this strategic outlook to CSR, we are again also discussing about one of the major important aspect, which is called as the stakeholder relationship. When I talk about the stakeholder relationship, the first important point that comes into my mind is the government and the regulators. So the CSR practices help in building strong relationship with the government and regulatory bodies, because the government need to understand what type of businesses is being undertaken in a company. Is it sustainable? Is it lasting because of contributing towards the society or not? Second is the customers. The customers nowadays are increasingly demanding the responsible behavior from the corporations such that they contribute positively towards the benefit of the society. Next is the suppliers and the partners. There is fair and ethical dealings, enhancement with the suppliers and the partners. Next important element that we need to take into consideration in the stakeholder relationship is the community with whom we are working. So engaging with the local community and investment in the social cause will build goodwill, and also it will provide support to its employees. Now there are different important issues that are being addressed by incorporating CSR, or that is being addressed by CSR. the first important issue that is being sorted out through CSR is the fair wages to all the employees. So here what we are doing when we are talking about the fair wages, we say that whenever an employee is working in the organization, the fairness has to be maintained among the employees, because if fairness is not being maintained inside the organization, there will be clash of opinion, there will be conflict, there will be problem. Next important problem that is being addressed by CSR, by the incorporation of CSR, is the working is the working condition. When I'm talking about the working condition or working hour, I'm talking about providing the reasonable working hours and safe healthy working environment that is being provided to the employees in order to see that the productivity of the employees are increasing, their involvement into the job is increasing. So whenever we are talking about a particular work, the employees have in their mind that what they will be getting out of the job that they do. So through the incorporation of the CSR, the working hours of the employees are fixed, and different important safety and healthy environment is being created such that the employees feel good to work in that platform. Next important issue that is being addressed by CSR is the healthcare of the employees. When I'm talking about the healthcare, I'm offering adequate healthcare facilities for the benefit of the employees. Next is through CSR, we can go for protection against arbitrary dismissal. Now, when I'm talking about arbitrary dismissal, we are basically discussing on the point that any company can either keep the employee, can either take out the employee. So through CSR, we are safeguarding the employees from the unfair benefits of the CSR. The first and very important benefits we also have discussed in previous class. I will just give you a brief outline. When I'm talking about the benefits of the CSR, we are talking about the reputation of the company. So that is, whenever we are talking about the enhancement, reputation, we are talking about the enhancing the company's public image and brand value. Second important benefit is it helps in boosting the employee satisfaction and loyalty. That is, it is helping increasing the employee morale. Third important aspect is it provides for customer loyalty. That is, it attracts and retains the customers who value ethical practices. Next important benefit of CSR is it helps in differentiating the companies from the competitors. That is, it is providing you the strategies, it is providing you the ways that this particular thing can be done in this manner, so on and so forth. Now, there are different important challenges of CSR. Now, first and very important thing is whenever we are undertaking CSR activity, it is involving a lot of cost. And when I'm talking about investment, when I'm talking about cost, it may put the company in a stage wherein you can't go for investing in after a particular limit. Next is another important challenge of CSR is we are quantifying the impact of CSR initiatives, which can be challenging. Next is consistency cannot be maintained, because maintaining ethical practices consistently across all the operations and geographies can be difficult. So by embedding the CSR into the core strategies of a company, not only helps in meeting the expectations of the various stakeholders, but also it contributes towards the sustainable development of the company, making it a more responsible and successful business in the long run. Now we'll discuss about how this business ethics and CSR can be linked, and what is the benefit we'll be getting out of this linkage. So we will go for an in-depth analysis of linkage between CSR and business ethics. The first important element that we keep in our mind is importance of communicating ethical practices. So the role of ethical communication is very important. It is essential for the corporate houses to effectively communicate the established ethical practices to the employees. So what will happen? Now it will help in fostering a foundation of trust and unity among the employees, thus aligning the employees with the organizational values and standards. So if your communication, one very important thing I should tell you, if the communication among the employees is strong, if the communication among your colleagues or if your employees will be strong, then they are ready to provide you whatever you demand. So the one of the major important element in communicating the ethical practices to the employees is the role of ethical communication, wherein we can communicate with the people effectively, thus developing the trust and unity of the employees. Next important element is the ethical principle and liability. Now, this ethical principle will help us in mitigating the business liability and thus setting the benchmarks for performance, whether it is disciplinary or whether it is aspirational. So it helps in guiding the behavior beyond mere compliance and thus contribute towards the overall organizational integrity. Now, another important aspect that we will be taking into consideration is the leadership and the ethics. When I'm talking about leadership roles, we are talking about the element that leaders must embody the ethical behavior and should make the decisions that is reflecting the organizational value. So their actions set a precedent for the rest of the organization, influencing the employees' attitude and behavior. Next important aspect in this leadership and ethics is the profit maximization versus ethical standard. When I'm talking about the leaders, they should prioritize profit must balance with the ethical considerations such that the financial goals can be attained without compromising on the ethical standards. Next important aspect that we'll be discussing in this is the that CSR and business ethics, the connections and the differences. So when I'm talking about the overall, ethics and CSR and business ethics are closely related. They are the distinct concepts. So ethics often form a part of CSR, but encompass a broader principle of what basically is right and what basically is wrong, while CSR focus specifically on the social and environmental impact of business practices. So in general, it is telling that when we are talking about ethics, I'm talking about the principle of being right and wrong. When I'm talking about CSR, I'm focusing specifically on the social and the environmental impact of the business practices. Now, next important aspect that we may take into consideration while discussing about CSR and business ethics is the normative stakeholder theory. When I'm talking about this normative stakeholder theory, we are emphasizing that businesses have a moral obligation. Businesses have a moral obligation to consider the interest of the various stakeholders. Who are the stakeholders? The employees, the customers, the vendors, the community, so on and so forth. Now, there are different important ethical issues in business. The first one is there is diverse ethical dilemmas. So, ethical issues vary from industry to location. So there are the common dilemmas that are included in this can be child labor, can be discrimination, can be workforce safety, can be legal compliance, so on and so forth. So emerging concerns in the globalized world, will involve cybercrime, will involve privacy violence, will involve bribery and will involve fraud. So there are different important classifications that are being made for business for ethical issues. The first important element that is being provided is by Oster in 2017. It identifies that the ethical issues can be trust and integrity. If we do not have trust on our employee, on our employer, it will be difficult for us to work in that particular platform. So there has to be trust and integrity with the parties that are involved in the implementation of ethics and CSR. Next is, it is not that only like-minded people or people from one particular background will be taken in when we are working with the CSR. Rather, different people from different backgrounds, from different educational qualifications, from different projects have to be taken in so that they can match themselves with the changing environment. Management of diverse teams. Now it is very difficult to manage people from different backgrounds, but we have to do it because when we are talking about diverse teams, I am talking about different people coming from different culture, different background, and managing them to work again is a difficult task. Next important issue is the decision making and governance. Every time what happens, the decision is being taken by the top management, but after the implementation of business, that the people who are working on the platform are also involved in the decision making process and thus incorporating their strategies in the corporate governance. Now, next important, classification of ethical issue is given by Bernstein in the year 2016. It relied on social networking. It relied on surveillance, and it identified the surveillance and privacy. It went for asking transparency or child labor, and it also helps in identifying the environmental protection. So, coming to the environmental protection and business responsibility, we can say that CSR plays a very important role in protecting the society, and it also helps in understanding the business responsibility. So, first and very important thing, how it can be done is the impact of the industrialization. The different industrial activities have significantly contributed towards the environmental degradation, including global warming, pollution, and resource depletion. Now, what is the business role? The businesses need to adopt practices that maximize the environmental harm, such as reducing emissions, preventing pollution, and conserving resources. So, it includes strict regulations and innovative solutions to environmental changes. Now, another important aspect that we'll be discussing here is the specific concerns that is relating to the environment. The first and very important concern that everyone knows is the pollution of the environment. Now, it can be physical, the pollution can be physical, the pollution can be biological, the pollution can be chemical, from the industrial activities. Next important element is the marine ecosystem. When I'm talking about the marine ecosystem, I'm talking about the industrial waste that is impacting the marine life, and it is contributing to ocean warming and acidification. Next important concern of the environment is the agricultural chemicals. So when we are using the fertilizer and pesticides, we are in general affecting the soil and the water quality. Very important is the water quality. You can get everything, but if you don't get water, your crops or you cannot go for agriculture. Next important aspect that we are discussing here is on consumer safety and product responsibility. Now, when I'm talking about consumer safety, when I'm talking about consumer trust, the companies must ensure that their products are safe and are reliable. The products are safe and are reliable. And they are and they are fulfilling their duty to prevent harm and thus maintain consumer trust. Now, next important aspect is the strict product liability. The can be held liable for the defects in their products. So, even if they exercise due care, the liability ensures accountability. The liability ensures accountability. So if you are being given a responsibility, you should be accountable to it. So this is why it is telling that the liability should ensure accountability, but it also raises the concern about the fairness and cost. Next important aspect in it is the balancing the safety and the cost. The companies are needing to balance the safety measures with cost considerations, thus ensuring the products are safe without imposing the unreasonable financial burdens. Next important workplace challenge and the employee welfare. So one of the major important welfare for the employee can be the health. Next important aspect that we are talking about this workplace challenges and employee welfare is the management styles. So it is suggesting that the managers should adapt their leadership styles to meet the diverse needs of the employees, thus promoting a positive and productive, positive and productive work environment. Okay. Next important challenge is the daycare and the maternity leave. The companies can support working partners by offering daycare services. So what we can do is we can create a space wherein the people can go and have their food. So the companies are supporting the parents go and have their food, go and see their children if they are small. So nowadays companies are supporting working parents by offering a daycare facility and flexible maternity leave policies, such that they can work on it and can carry for and can revert. They and can find out the ways how to carry forward. This is not only the aids. This not only aids the employee retention. If you are caring the employee, obviously the employee will care you. So if this type of aids are being provided to the employees, then it will help in the retention of the employees, and it will also help in demonstrating social responsibility. It will also help in demonstrating social responsibility. So in general, it is telling that whenever we are talking about CSR and business ethics, they are important and are integral to the modern business practices and are impacting various aspects from the environmental sustainability to employee welfare and consumer safety. So organizations that align with their practice with the ethical principles and social responsibility, they are contributing more towards the sustainable and equitable world. They are contributing more towards the sustainable and equitable world, thus enhancing their long-term success. So it is concentrating both on top of form and on bottom of form. So this is what this chapter is all about. We saw that business ethics and CSR are interlinked. Without them, the business operations will not be sustainable. So CSR is not just about the initiatives that we take. So the corporation's responsibility towards its stakeholders is tantamount to being ethical. Without it, you can't carry forward the work. So it requires the responsibility on the part of the business to understand and cater to the needs of the stakeholders, that is the employees, consumers, suppliers, and investors. So it emanates from the very fact that consumers are solely dependent on the businesses for their needs. So business too depends on the consumers and the stakeholders. So it has been observed that the degree of such dependency intensifies today, wherein information, communication, and technology rules the roost of daily lives. So these societies are characterized by high levels of mechanization, specialization, and corporations needs to ethically connect with each other, connect to the stakeholder to be a part of the processes. So here in this chapter we discussed about business ethics. Business ethics are not nothing but the moral principle that acts as a guideline in the conduction of the business and its transactions. We discussed about CSR, very important. Again, we discussed about CSR. So CSR is the way of describing how the companies are measuring and controlling, how the companies are measuring and controlling the impact on the society. We also discussed about utilitarianism, wherein it is an ethical theory that determines with what is right and what is wrong by focusing on the outcomes, and it is a form of consequentiality. Okay. Next is we also discussed about the professional course. Professional codes are nothing but the rules and the regulations that are supposed to govern the conduct of members of a given profession. Next, we also discussed about the doctrine of strict product liability. It states that the manufacturer or distributor of a defective product will owe an injured person compensation. So what it is telling, that doctrine of strict product liability, it is suggesting that the manufacturer or the distributor of a defective product will owe an injured person the compensation even if the defendant took reasonable steps to prevent the defect. So when we are talking about linking of the CSR with business ethics, it is contributing positively towards the society, it is contributing positively towards the individual, it is contributing positively towards the society and the people in general. So in this chapter we discuss different important aspect, that whenever we are linking the CSR with the business ethics, we can carry forward our businesses in an ethical manner. We can be sustainable in the business that we are undertaken, and the linkage between this business ethics and society can be of profound importance for all of us. So here in this chapter, we discussed about what basically is business ethics and what basically is CSR. We discussed how the collaboration of business ethics and CSR can be of very importance. So it is suggested. So in this chapter, we discussed that if we can collaborate both, we can attain sustainability of the corporation. If we can't collaborate, or you may say that if we are not uniting, if we are not collaborating, then our business, though it can perform, but it cannot be sustainable in the long run. So in this block, block 2, we discussed four important unit 5 has given an overview of CSR, then the shareholder to stakeholder relationship. Then we also discussed the stakeholder view, suggested that the prime goal of a business is to earn profit, and the concept of stakeholder retention to the firm is being touched upon, as the manager should evaluate the core competencies of the organization in order to determine which stakeholders they should support and which stakeholders they should not. So there are different important case studies that are being discussed in that particular unit, so that future managers can relate themselves with the practical world. In unit 6, again, we focused on integrating the CSR into the management practices or business practices, as integrating of CSR into business strategy, business practices will help in conduction of the business in an ethical way, in a proper way. So there are different important approaches that are being suggested, that are being discussed in integrating the CSR with the business strategy and business strategy. And we also business strategy with less cost or low cost with risk reduction, with gaining competitive advantage, with developing a reputation and legitimacy, drawing positive outcomes through synergistic value that is being created, and creating the value of the multiple stakeholders who are working for the company. Now in unit 7 again we have given an overview of what basically of is CSR in international business. We explained the relationship between CSR and SDGs. SDGs are again nothing but the sustainable development goals, and we focused on the aspect that CSR helps in reducing the conflict among the people, promoting harmony in the affected zones such that business operations can be conducted effectively. So CSR and social activism are the two sides of the coin, and it has been identified that some of the dominant forms of such activism can be consumer activism, can be civil society organization activism, can be shareholder activism, can be employee activism, so on and so forth. And in this last unit, that is unit 8, we discussed about various topics we discussed about the various topics to draw the linkage between the business ethics and CSR. We meant that business ethics, meaning of business ethics and different CSR perspectives of business ethics have been discussed, and CSR, it's suggesting, is not just an initiative, but it requires the responsibility on the part of the business to understand and cater to the needs of its stakeholders, the stakeholder including the employees, the consumers, the suppliers, and investors. So the relationship between CSR and business ethics has been elaborated in this chapter, and we have identified that with this integration we can help ourselves in understanding the future managers, thus understanding along with understanding the society at large. Now, when we are talking about this block, we are discussing on CSR, we are discussing on business ethics, we are discussing on the integration of CSR and business ethics, we are discussing how this integration can contribute positively towards the benefit of the company. We are discussing that if we can create a linkage between the two, we can obviously create an environment such that both work freely, such that companies understand each other freely. Companies do not go for shortages of in production. Companies do not go for identifying the ways and means such that they can remain absent in the organization in the long run. So, and they feel happy because they are contributing something towards the society with the work that they perform. So we are ending this block 2 of this CSR. Block 2 of the CSR is evolution and concept of CSR. So another important thing that we can find out, that there are different important case studies that we have discussed in these chapters, in this blog. Please go through the case studies and discuss by identifying your viewpoint how you can incorporate it into practice. There are different important questions that we can identify in this units, and we can discuss. So we can discuss like what are the different types of social activism and what is its role in business responsibility. We can also discuss different questions that comes into our mind, that we draw a clear distinction between what basically is shareholder centric CSR and what basically is a stakeholder centric CSR. We can also frame the question as do we think socially responsible investment is one form of shareholder activism. We can also answer the question that what is the role of the civil society in regulating the businesses in general, why CSR is related, is concerned with the supply chain management. Obviously, you know that if CSR would be there, with the help of the CSR, operations of the businesses can be done effectively and our conduction of business will be sustainable. We can also find out different questions that can again be pointed, taking into consideration that how we can what is the benefit of integrating the business strategy with the CSR, what impact it is going to have on the employees, what is the role of values in the CSR strategy of business, what is the relationship between the corporation stakeholders, and what are the strategies adopted for better decisions. Okay, we can also ask the questions or answer the questions that how this cause related marketing is related to customer consciousness. Okay, we can also answer that the socially responsible investment, how it demonstrates a business strategy that has a huge social impact. So these are some of the questions we can answer if we can understand these chapters. When we are talking about CSR in the global context, we can also ask ourselves that what are the major initiatives carried out by the big corporations as per the mandates of the Companies Act. We have already discussed about the Companies Act, and everyone can answer that what are the mandates of the Companies Act 2013. And we can also go for answering that that we can identify the conflict zones around the world and the different companies that are operating in it in different places. So after reading these chapters, we can also help ourselves in answering that what basically is CSR and how it is going to implement this, how we can carry forward these activities with this with its incorporation with the SDGs. There are 17 SDGs we have already discussed, so we will find out which SDG will help in which particular aspect. For example, when we are talking about SDGs, how it is contributing towards the development of the society, and which SDG is basically helping us a lot, so on and so forth. So in the last chapter that we discussed about the linkage of CSR, in linkage of CSR with business ethics, we can go for answering how this organization's internal process affects its stakeholders. We have already discussed this in this chapter. Now you can answer very rightly. We can also go for answering different important questions what is the impact of it in the business, and we can go for impact analysis. We can say after studying this chapter, we can also identify the answers that what are the benefits of the companies with ethical code of conduct and CSR, why responsibility of the stakeholders is the fundamental principle for business ethics, how the organizations are looking the CSR activities nowadays, how it is going to impact their businesses. We can also answer what are the different prime strategies of the companies that are being used in the business operations. We can also answer the questions like why business activities like we have the mining, we have the manufacturing have become a concern not only for those who are affected but by such activity, but also for the business as well. So in general, we can answer different important questions that comes into our mind when I'm talking about sustainable business, when I'm talking about CSR, when I'm talking about SDGs. And we can throw light on each and every we have thrown light on each and every aspect of undertaking the business in an ethical manner, thus creating a sustainable environment. So this is all about this block 2. was on evolution and concept of CSR. We have completed this. In the next class, we'll start with block 3. In the next class, we'll start with block 3. And again we will come across we'll talk about different aspect of business ethics and CSR. Thank you so much for listening, and hope you all have understood our discussion. Thank you and have a fine day.